and welcome to a pre-recorded Red Sox Life Live. Yes, right. We're not coming to you live. We're actually pre-recording this. It was kind of a quick impromptu thing that I had some of these guys come on. So we're just happy that you're here. My name's Scott Levesque. You can see my Twitter handle below. It's my full name, no spaces, no underscores. I keep it legit. But I got a couple other friends here with me from Red Sox Live. They're staff writers here. Ian, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
So I'm Ian Becerra, and you can follow me on Twitter at Ian_Becerra.
Go ahead, Jorge.
Oh, hey, I'm Jorge. You can follow me on Twitter at I am Jorge Camargo. It's Camargo. I mostly tweet about the Red Sox and baseball in general.
Awesome. Ryan, go ahead, man.
I'm Ryan McLeod. Follow me on Twitter. It's right down here, right below my name. So check me out on Twitter.
Nice. And we got possibly Jim Monahan coming on here soon. He just texted me literally as the intros were going on. So we look forward to him coming on here. We'll give him a little intro as well. But let's kick things off tonight. There's a lot of action in the Red Sox organization. Some pitchers designated for assignment. We had some managers canned. And I just want to get, first of all, before we even get into any of that, why don't you, Ian, give me your overall thoughts of the current 2015 season?
Well, it's been an interesting one to say the least. The pitching so far, not up to par at all. I mean, this rotation is beyond bad. I mean, close to dead last in the league. I mean, they just got to step it up, especially the starting pitchers. Rick Porcello, the only starter right now with an ERA under 5, and he's not even under 4, so that just tells you really the state of their staff right now. I think they can hit a little bit, but we're not seeing it right now. Runners in scoring position, and that's really been a big key for them in this losing streak. Not knocking in the key guy when they need to. But I think hitting-wise they should be fine, and pitching-wise they can't be as bad as they are right now. So I'm a little more optimistic going forward.
Ryan, what do you think, man? How's the season been for you?
Well, I've been to a game, and it was a walk-off, so that was great. That was the Mookie Betts walk-off game. But other than that, it's been pretty abysmal. The pitching is exactly what we thought they were going to be. They're extremely below par, and the offense isn't able to carry them right now. So, we just fired a guy, but that was to be expected. This is on the front office right now. They go out and they make key signings on guys that play the field and can hit the ball, but then, like Ian said, we've got one guy with an ERA below 5. It's abysmal out on the mound, and that's really what I kind of expected this year.
Jorge, what about you, man? How you feeling about this season so far?
I think it's been really frustrating because this team is excellent on paper. And, I mean, the fact that Mike Napoli is hitting the cleanup spot and he's hitting below the Mendoza line tells you all we need to know about this team, because Napoli was a beast in the spring training. I mean, the broken bat home run and everything he was doing, and now he's taking over Handley, and we are seeing him like batting what, 160, 170? I mean, that tells you all we need to know. And the pitching staff has been horrible. I mean, and I don't think it's the coach's fault or whatever. It's just how things are going. But the funny thing is that we have some quality starts. I was reading the other day, we have more quality starts than Tampa Bay, and we'll still have the highest ERA, well, the second highest ERA as a rotation. So, I mean, it's been frustrating and funny to see it in a way, because it's not what you expect, but at the same time, it is what you should expect from them. I don't know. I'm just mad at them, even though they don't know me at all. So, I don't know.
Well, I think bottom line is everybody saw this coming in preseason.
Yeah.
When we picked up Porcello, which last year I was going through my archives. I wrote a piece when the Red Sox back in 2013 were interested in Porcello, and all the buzz surrounding that, and they never really got him. And then 2015 rolls around, he's on the staff, and everybody thought, you know what, we're gonna grab one more, the ace guy, and it never happened. So moving forward into spring training, I think the narrative there was this rotation is going to suck and suck hard, and it's lived up to expectation, man. It is not performing at all. But we actually designated a pitcher for assignment because it was absolutely necessary, and I think it was a statement more than anything else. I don't think Mujica was just abysmal. I mean, he wasn't great by any means, but I think this was a statement before anything else. And I'm just curious, Jorge, Do you think it was a statement to have him designated for assignment, or do you think the Red Sox just really don't believe in him, or do you think it was just kind of a crazy move that had no real logic or explanation for it?
I think it was more as a statement because, as you said, Mujica was not that bad, but it's like this could happen to you if you don't step up. I mean, last night it was awful. Masterson was just like awful. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And if we go back to Buckles against the Yankees in his second start, and everyone has been just like having a mental breakdown at the mound, and we can't keep doing this. We can't keep watching this pitching stuff. So I think that Mujica being designated for assignment is definitely like a statement of what can go wrong if you continue this way.
Yeah, and I also think Mojica was just an easy target. I mean,
Yeah.
he was just a very easy target, somebody who was kind of drew the short straw on a lot of different things. It's kind of ironic. The last play we'll remember from him is actually a Gold Glove caliber play where he caught
Yeah.
the ball between his legs and threw out the runner at home. But Ian, just out of curiosity, are the Red Sox grasping at straws? I mean, are they really getting rid of the players that they need to get rid of, or are they actually just saying, okay, here's my statement, and if this continues, there's going to be more heads that are going to roll?
Well, I think on that statement, I think there's a little bit of both going on. Mujica certainly wasn't stepping up and doing his job, and as Jorge was saying, there has to be some consequences to the poor performance on the mound. And I mean, he had a 4.61 ERA. I mean, that's just not going to cut it. And especially as a guy that they thought could be insurance for Uehara if he was hurt, and even they started the year with him as the closer. And for him to fall this far, I mean, we could kind of see it coming just based off of the way he performed with the Red Sox. I mean, he wasn't great last year either, but he kind of finished the year strong, and it was just a statement that they really needed to make because Mujica, he just wasn't cutting it, and they do have to let other players know that going forward that it could happen to them. And then also I think it was also a statement because they might go down to AAA and call up some young guys, see what they finally can do. We all know that they have a lot of good pitching prospects down there, and I think it's about time we see what someone can do in the big league level.
And I think that Mujica was even the most expensive arm of the bullpen, right?
Right.
So yeah, there you go.
Well, I also think too, we're kind of chasing the tail here. I mean, really, the biggest problem is not the bullpen. I mean, the bullpen hasn't been great, but when you're making 12, 13, 14 starts already, there's a problem there. There's a massive problem, and I think it's easy to throw the blame at Eddie over here and say, well, he deserves to be designated for assignment. Yeah, great, fine. But really, it's more of a systematic problem when it comes to the starters, not necessarily the bullpen. And I think the easiest thing to do is, throw red meat in front of the dogs and let them go for it, and it distracts everything else. And I think that's what this move was. Is, oh yeah, we definitely believe in our starters, but it's the bullpen that's been really letting us down. And if you saw the start that Masterson had yesterday, that pass ball that he threw so far outside of the plate. I mean, Swihart couldn't. He tried everything he could to get that, and there was no chance. I really think they're missing the mark here. But do you agree with that, Ryan?
I mean, my girlfriend and I, whenever we watch the games and Mojica comes in, she'll turn the game off because she's like, "This is over. If the Sox have the lead, it's gone with Mojica. It's abysmal. I mean, to give up 7 runs in 13 and 2/3 innings." We thought he was going to be a solid guy when we got him, and then he showed some of that last year at the end of the year, but he's never been consistent for us. He's always kind of shat the bed. And I think that I don't think it's really pulling straws at this point. He's been one of the worst out of the bullpen since the start of the year. He could spend some time down in AAA. I don't think it's a send down, call him up in a week or so. He might be down there for a month.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, and I don't see him coming back anytime soon. I think they're going to give some of the young guns an opportunity to prove themselves, and rightfully so. I mean, right now there's a clusterfuck in the outfield with who we have now, not including Rusney Castillo and JBJ, who's been lighting it up in AAA right now. I think the Red Sox have a problem of having too much talent in certain areas and not enough in some of the most important ones, and that's including the starting pitching. I mean, I guess, Jorge, what I want to know is, what is your suggestion outside of everything that's happened? What do the Red Sox need to do? Because they look like garbage. They're garbage, and it's like shenanigans times 40 in that clubhouse right now, and it all focuses on the starting pitching. What do you think they need to do?
I think they need to let guys go. I mean, everyone that sucks at this point, it's not going to get better because we had the same conversation last year that, oh, let's be patient about him, but we'll see what happened last year, right? So I mean, for example, Bradley Jr. has been always great at AAA and spring training, so he might be like, he's hitting like what, 360, 370, but then again, transferring him to the major leagues is not a good thing because we'll see what happens. So I just think that we should let the guys go. I mean, guys like Craig, perhaps even Napoli, if he doesn't get better in like 2 months. Bradley Jr. maybe some pitching stuff, and maybe Farrell next year if things don't go right this year. I don't know. That's all. That's all I'm thinking right now. I mean, when I heard of the Red Sox looking for a new pitching coach, all I was thinking that is that Farrell was a good pitching coach back in '08 and '09, I think. He was even great. I mean, what if we have Farrell as a pitching coach and Varitek as a manager? You know, I think that.
Some hot takes right there.
Yeah.
Tech isn't coming back.
No, I know. His wife tweeted something about 2 hours ago. I know, but it's like, you know what I'm saying? We have the right guys, but perhaps not in the right position.
I mean, I think we have to send Masterson to the pen. I know that's an expensive guy to have in the pen. He's been good in the pen before, and I think it's time. I mean, we all knew that he was going to come up at some point this year, and we all thought it was going to be way later than right now. But it's time to see Henry Owens pitch in the big leagues. It really is. That kid's a stud. He could potentially be a #1 on this staff if they give him the opportunity. I mean,
even more than Eduardo Rodriguez?
Yeah, I mean, I think Henry Owens is solid. He's a real deal. He's a lefty. He throws hard. He's got the look of John Lester had at one point. He doesn't quite have the makeup yet, but let's give him the shot. I mean, we're giving Swihart the shot right now. I mean, that's because of injury. But if we're going to call up these young guys that we were going to call up earlier in the year, let him pitch to guys that he's used to pitching to. He came up through the minors with Swihart. They have that chemistry, pitcher-catcher at this point. Let them throw with each other. I mean, is it really gonna get worse? Is Henry Owens gonna go out there and get shelled and have a above 6 ERA? I don't really think so, and that's what part of our rotation looks like.
That's what we said about Stephen Wright too, and Stephen Wright has not been able to handle the pressure. And no, I'm not saying that we shouldn't bring these guys up. My question or kind of my thought about it is, let's have a little bit more realistic expectations. Because we see JBJ, ripping it up in AAA, does well in spring training, and then he, regular season starts and he can't even bat over 220.
Yeah, but we've also seen Mookie Betts rip it up in AA and AAA last year, and now he's still tearing it up here.
Yeah, but he was great last year at the major league level.
Yes, he was. But Henry Owens hasn't got that shot at the major league level.
You're right, but Henry Owens hasn't been that great in spring training. I'm not sure about it. Perhaps we may have Owens at the pen.
Yeah.
What do you think, Ian?
Anything's worth a shot at this point. I think we might see some fake DL stints coming up for guys like Buck Colts or Wade Miley. Get him a little rest with a fake shoulder injury or something, just maybe to give some of the younger guys a shot, and then that'll just, you can really see what you have in those guys going forward, so you can decide whether or not you really want to cut bait with those guys. Because if those minor league guys struggle coming up, I mean, that you really don't want to see that, especially early on in their career. And on Bradley, real quick, if he comes up if he's going to hit 160 like Nava and Craig, I mean, at least he's going to be playing much better defense than those two. So I think he's worth a shot at this point.
Hey, look at this.
Howdy.
The old sage himself, Mr. James Conan. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good, Scott. Good to see you again. Ryan, how are you?
How's it going, Jim?
Good. And a couple of new guys, Ian and Jorge, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Good. Great to have you guys aboard.
Hey, Jim, if you can move your camera down a little bit because we're cutting you off here with all these. There you go, beautiful. Look at that mug. That's
Thank
nice.
you.
Just a quick comment on that. I totally agree. Let's get some of these guys some experience up here. My only problem is I don't think that solves the bigger issue. The bigger issue is the starting pitching. And are you going to trust if we get into the playoffs to give the ball game 3 to Henry Owens? I don't know that we trust that. I don't think Farrell trusts that. And so for me, it's nice to bring him in the pen, get him some big league innings, see where they're at, maybe give one or two a start. But I don't know if we can rely long term on these guys yet. I think it's a nice complementary piece. But what we're missing is an ace. We're missing a horse, the stopper, if you will. Now Porcello's filled in these last two, but I don't see him as a number 2 or a number 1. I see him as a number 3 at best, and I think that's been the narrative all along. So Jim, since you're here, we're talking about this starting pitching issue after uh, you know um, Edward was put down to designated for assignment. So I guess what I'm asking you is, what do we do with the starting pitching now? I mean, we think that was a stopgap, the kind of just the sacrificial lamb. What do you think?
Well, I agree that I think he and Nieves were both the sacrificial lambs here. The thing with Porcello, and I saw him pitch in high school, so I've seen him for a while. He's from here in New Jersey. He grew up about 15 minutes from where I am, as a matter of fact. Um, we look at him and think, well, he's not a number 1 or a number 2. You think about the guys he was behind in Detroit, though, and
Right.
you look at the track record that he had. He wasn't not a number 1 or 2 because of a lack of ability. It was because of the guys he was behind, Scherzer and Verlander in that group. So, no, he's not a number 1. I'll give you that. But I think he can be a number 2. And the way he's pitched, especially the past couple of outings, where you go out there and you see that he's sending some kind of a message, the message that Buchholz can't send for some reason or another. I still have very high hopes for Porcello.
Yeah, I said this to a guy at work today. I'm really hoping that Buckholz's daughter lays on his arm again and he goes on the DL for 6 months, just because I don't see anything from him. I'm seeing nothing from him. He looks like a bag of sand, and it's
What
pathetic.
gets me the most about Buchholz, you go back to was it a 10-0 start that he had?
Yeah,
And there was that ground ball to the right side, and he's trying to cover first. He ends up rolling over on his neck, and I knew at that point that he stayed in the game at that point, but I knew that he'd been injured. You could just kind of tell. I don't understand how he went from 10-0 at that point and just kind of fell off the planet. Something happened because
Yeah.
everything we expected to Buchholz to be, he was at that point. I can't explain it.
Maybe a head case. Jorge,
Hmm.
let's switch gears here. We were talking about the statement made in the pitching staff. Let's talk about the fact that the pitching coach got canned. Nieves is out. He's gone. I mean, big statement. Do you think that's something that should have happened? Do you think he lost control? Do you think the pitchers are not listening to him? I mean, what's your assessment just generally?
I don't think it's his fault, but I think it's what can be fixed right now. Because obviously you can't deal with a group of guys when Buchholz is your number 1. Absolutely not. But what can you do now about it? You can't fire the whole rotation. You can send Buckles and Miley and Kelly to AAA. You can't designate him for assignment. So I think it's like the first step to something big. Maybe something on the trade market, maybe even something with adding a new pitcher from AAA. We don't know. But I think it's the first step to something even bigger than we might expect. Because as I said, I don't think it was Nieves' fault, but it's what we can do to fix things right now. Because did some of you heard the press conference of Farrell and Charrington earlier this morning?
Yeah.
They said that they felt that Nieves wasn't having the connection with the rotation as it did a couple of years ago. So perhaps that's what they are trying to fix now. And I go back to my point of 10 minutes. So what if Farrell was the pitching coach and we have to look for a new manager? Because who is going to be the new pitching coach? I mean, honestly, it's not going to be Pedro, obviously. Who is going to be? There's no one. I mean, they are saying about the guy that works at AAA, but to be honest, I don't see anyone being like a pitching coach that actually can make a difference as of right now.
Hmm. Ian, your thoughts on it?
Well, going back to what we were saying earlier, Nieves is really the sacrificial lamb here. I mean, Mujica was, I think, just based off performance, but I mean, Nieves, I mean, when you have a staff that's performing that poorly, I mean, someone's got to pay the consequence, and he was the guy. And it's kind of tough to connect with the pitchers when the pitchers, frankly, don't have that much talent. I mean, there wasn't much basis to go off of the guys, so it was kind of just a statement move, I think, on that. And just whoever they get as the new guy, they really need to teach these pitchers just to be aggressive. I mean, the amount of walks that they've given up is just brutal. It puts the fielders to sleep, and that kind of hurts their fielding too, which hasn't been great either.
So Ryan, I guess the question is, who's next? If this continues, are they gonna cut Farrell? Like, is he gone? Does he have that short of a leash right now?
I mean, I think that he does. I've never been impressed with Farrell as a manager. In 2013, that was more of a team of destiny. That wasn't really Farrell taking the reins and leading that team. Last year, I think we really saw what Farrell's like as a manager, and it's just continued over to this year. He's a phenomenal pitching coach, but he doesn't have what it takes to be a manager right now, I think, and it's really showing. And it's him. I think Sherrington needs to have a shorter leash than he actually does. He really didn't set this pitching staff up for success. But
Interesting.
no one's gonna go out there. I mean, it's a lot. It's on the front office. Most of this. I mean, we've talked about it before. They didn't go out and they didn't get Lester because it would have been great right now, but it would have been awful 6 years from now. They're giving Wade Miley $3.5 million this year. They gave him a $21 million 3-year extension. Justin Masterson is getting $9 million this year. It's a staff. It's like a puzzle staff, and they're missing a piece.
One thing I got to say, I don't know how the complexities and how the inner workings of the dynamics between Farrell and Nieves is. But if you watched that game yesterday with Masterson, there was a point where Masterson had lost control of pretty much every pitch he threw. And I don't know I can't remember, was it the fifth or the sixth? Right before they took him out. I can't remember what inning that was. But he digressed literally right before our eyes. He went from having somewhat control to literally having none, to the point where it was that play I was just talking about, where Swihart went across his body to try to stop that ball, and he couldn't because it was so far outside of the plate. And my thought during that time was, what is Farrell doing right now? He's literally watching the deterioration of Masterson in front of his eyes, and instead of finding some way to stall to get whomever in that pin ready to go, he decided to let him stay. It was almost like Grady Little letting Pedro pitch against the Yankees. It was just one of those things where you're sitting there as a fan and going, what are you doing? Well, get your butt out there. Get him off the mound. He can't throw a fastball at a broadside of a barn to save his life. Jim, I'm blaming Farrell more than I'm blaming Nieves. Do you agree?
I don't know if I would place the blame on him. I think, to go back to something Ryan just said about 2013, he didn't get in the way of what was happening, and there's a lot to be said for a manager who does that. I think the jury is still out on him, to be honest with you. I liked him better as a pitching coach, although I think he was the right guy in 2013. I don't know how much of a leash Sherrington's going to give him, to be honest with you. What's he signed for, this year and next?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a 2-year extension. No, it was more than that. I think it's 3 years.
Yeah, it was 3.
I don't know if he fills out, if he, lasts the entire length of the contract or not.
He could be gone by the All-Star break if this keeps up.
I think it depends on the expectations that upper management has for the season.
Well, when you have impromptu meetings with the big boy, Mr. Henry there, that's not a good sign. When he's showing up at your doorstep and saying, we need to talk, my seat's pretty hot at that point. And
They're the Red Sox. Their expectation should be in contention every year.
Yeah.
And I mean, if we're 10, 12 out by the All-Star break, he's gone. You got to think.
Yeah, I don't see him living past past the half shelf life if he continues this, and especially if the pitching. I mean, it's bad, guys. We could say anything. Offenses go hot and cold all the time in baseball. I mean, it's an ebb and flow thing. But when your pitching cannot, I think it was on the Felger and Maz show. Maserati hit the nail on the head. When you lose games and you're scoring 7 and 8 runs, that's a terrible sign. That's a bad sign for your team. That's a bad sign for your pitching staff. And it's only going to get worse. And if we cannot figure out a way to either get through to the pitching that we have, the staff that we have, or make some trades, some maneuvers here, I think it's going to get pretty bad. Anybody? Any final thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't know if you read the Francona book with Don Shaughnessy, but in one chapter, Francona says that when Farrell was the pitching coach in '08, the rotation was even scared of him. So what's going on right now? I mean, if 7 years ago, the same guys, I mean, well, mostly Buckles and Masterson were afraid of Farrell, what's happening right now? I mean, I don't see Farrell being like a leader, not only of the rotation, of the whole team. I even see Ortiz and probably Pedroia being more leaders than Farrell, to be honest.
Jim, I'm curious your take on that.
Yeah, I do remember. I think it was Buchholz, especially making the comment about being afraid of Farrell. I think certainly, Buchholz was a lot younger, and so was Masterson. So I can see why they would have been afraid of somebody who I think Farrell is a rather imposing figure, and I don't know that he can. I don't know that he can be that guy as the manager. I think managing a major league team is so much different now than it used to be. You watch some of the stuff. I think what Joe Madden does is utter nonsense, but it worked with Tampa Bay. There's something to be said for the goofy outfits and the silly sweaters and the nonsense that they do. But that stuff kind of works. Would it work with a team like the Red Sox? I don't know. But I don't know that you can be that fire and brimstone kind of guy, the fiery little genius that Billy Martin was referred to during his many tenures down here when he was with the Yankees. I just don't know that works anymore.
Ian, what do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Farrell, he's kind of trying to straddle the line here between being the pitching coach and the manager. I really feel like he wants to help out the pitchers, but he also has the duty to manage the team and do what's best for them. And I really just think that he's kind of in between right there, and he has to, deal with those duties, setting the lineup and stuff, and he doesn't get as much time as he'd probably like to work with some of the pitchers, especially seeing the struggles going on right now.
Yeah, it's funny. If you want to look at somebody who did it the wrong way, I don't think you have to go very far back and look at our buddy Valentine. That thing didn't last long, and it surely didn't look pretty either. And I think you're right, Jim. Francona was so good because he was able to manage the personalities of like Ortiz, Manny, Millar, Miller.
Papelbon.
I'm sorry?
Papelbon too.
Yeah, Papelbon, Pedro. I mean, there's a lot of big personalities and egos in that room. And, the same thing that got him through it is also, I think, the same downfall. There's a shelf life for some of that, and I think it goes both ways. We don't need to bring up the chicken and beer incident, but I think some of that had to do with how the clubhouse was managed. And so it'll be interesting moving forward. I don't see Farrell having much of a leash here. I think that firing of Nieves was kind of a red flag. Like, keep it up, and this is what's going to happen. So it'll be interesting to see as we move forward. But I want to switch gears here and talk about our favorite people, the Yankees. And more importantly, Mr. A-Rod here, who's coming back and trying to stick it real good to Yankee management right now. And he's doing a good job of it. Tonight he just hit .661, passing Willie Mays as sole possession of 4th place all-time on the home run list. And guys, I'm going to get to you, but there's something about a sage. And when he speaks about this kind of stuff, being a guy who's seen it all, Jim, what are your thoughts on this right now?
Well, I'm probably the only one, not just of us here tonight, but of the entire 16-member staff of RedSoxLife who saw Willie Mays play. And I don't mean at the end of his career. I saw Willie when I was a kid living in Philadelphia, 64, 65, 66. So I saw him not necessarily in the prime of his career, but he was still bringing a lot to the table at that point. When A-Rod hit number 660, and obviously we knew it was coming, up until the point that he hit the home run, I had kind of resigned myself to the fact records are made to be broken. It is what it is. When he hit 660, I couldn't believe how angry I was over the whole thing. Willie Mays, to me, and again, this is as a kid growing up, watching him at the age of 8, 9, and 10, he was the best player I ever saw until Alex Rodriguez. And I was covering the Yankees a little bit when he was with Seattle, so I saw him as a kid and looked at him and thought, this might be somebody better than Mays. And to watch the way A-Rod's career has deteriorated it's sad. The whole thing is just sad. Was he doing steroids as far back as high school? I don't know. He's probably the only one who knows, and whoever gave him the steroids, if indeed he did. But that's the overwhelming thing that I have, Scott. I'm sad. I'm a little angry because Mays holds a special place in my heart because of watching him as a kid. That's something that I'm just dealing with, I guess. And now that A-Rod's passed him, and I'm thinking, how much of this is legit? How many home runs did he hit on the juice? I think he would have hit a ton of them even without it. He had that kind of talent. But
we had that conversation.
I'm sorry?
You and I had that conversation. I disagree with that, but you and I have had that conversation.
Yeah. He was just a marvelous talent. I know a guy, for the other guys who don't know, I work at a baseball training facility here in New Jersey, and one of our previous instructors had played with A-Rod in AA, and he said the only guy who could get A-Rod out at that level was A-Rod. He didn't have a weakness. He was that talented. He's a once-in-a-lifetime player, and again, the overwhelming sentiment I have is the whole thing is just ridiculously sad what he's done.
Ryan, what do you think, man?
Personally, I don't really care about it at this point. I mean, I care a little bit more than the Yankees care, and it's pretty obvious because if you saw their Twitter tonight, they were like, A-Rod hit 661, passes Willie Mays, and then Teixeira hit one a couple innings later, and their celebration for Teixeira's homer was more than it was for A-Rod's homer. I mean, I could see him hitting 100 more. I think he probably will. And if he doesn't do it with the Yankees, I think there's going to be a team that picks him up. He's probably going to play until he hits 100 more. And somebody will end up picking him up so that he can hit it, and they'll give him a bunch of money, and he'll be all thankful to them. And it's about how many did he hit on the juice. Has he hit all of them on the juice? But at this point, it's going to be like Barry Bonds. No matter how many he hits, he's not going to make it in the Hall of Fame. Which is sad because he's the kind of talent that deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
Interesting. Jorge, what do you think, man?
I don't know. I mean, I was mad on Friday when I saw that. To be honest with you, I was really pissed off. But then I realized, I mean, it's just history. We have to embrace it. If he did steroids or not, it's just the way it is. I mean, we can't change that. So it's, as Ryan said, it's going to be the same with Barry Bonds. I just find hilarious when a writer doesn't vote for a player that wasn't used because, I mean, you can't hide that stuff. You can't, pretend it isn't happening. Like the Yankees are doing with A-Rod right now. I mean, on Friday, they even celebrated more the fact that they won than A-Rod home run. So, I don't know. I just think it's silly that people are trying to hide the fact that A-Rod is, being the horse of the Yankees, if you want to say it like that. So, I don't know. It bums me out because he was a nice player, an excellent player with Seattle and even with Texas. So, it's like the same with Manny, or even, I don't know. I really can't say. It pisses me off more than it should do, more than it should be. I don't know.
Ian, man, do you feel the same way? Were you bummed out? Were you mad, or did you just don't even care?
Well, to be honest, I was more mad that they lost the game, but that's not the real reason. But just, the fact that he was on steroids at some point, and it just taints the numbers. And just to think that they were sacred at one point, everyone knew that Aaron was 755, and Ruth with his, and just going down the list, and all the numbers meant something. And that's kind of unique to baseball. I mean, not other sports. You're gonna know how many goals Gretzky had or stuff like that, but baseball, you really did. You knew Aaron was 755, and then to see all this with Bonds and A-Rod kind of just go out the window, and it kind of ruined it. And I mean, baseball's a really statistical game like that, and to ruin it's kind of sad.
I think it's funny. I think what you're going to end up seeing. I have two different points of view on this. One is I'm totally digging the fact that the Yankees are cringing every time he hits a home run. I mean, I could see Brian Cashman up there just face palming and just literally biting off fingernails because he is so irritated with the fact that A-Rod is still on his roster. He's still paying him a ton of money, and he's still jacking up home runs, which just looks bad on the Yankees' end. On the other hand, too, I didn't see Mays play personally or live, but there's a reverence to the baseball game, and I think right now there's an interesting dichotomy going on. There's the people that are like, you know what are you going to do? Not vote everybody who was in this era into the Hall of Fame? Get over it, kind of accept it, move forward with it. We're gonna vote these people in. There's a part of me too that thought that, man, baseball was, we knew, you kind of could tell, right? So this whole era has this large gap of great players: McGuire, Bonds, Sosa, A-Rod. You could throw Ortiz in there because he's been linked, and now it's proliferating the entire sport where guys like Mike Trout are now being looked at like, you're a 5'2" player. There's not a lot of those ever, and the ones that we've seen recently have juiced up. So it also brings this portion of sadness and just, I'm just pissed off because you can't enjoy people's athletic ability for what it is anymore, because we're always with the eye going, really, is that really what's going on? So I don't really know. I guess for me it's more comical at this point because it has to be, because like you said, Jim, it is so sad that it's got to be comical. Other than that, it's just a guy who had all the potential in the world, and for whatever the reason, and I think we talked about this, Jim, his insecurity or his desire to be the best and wanting people to love him for being the best got the best of him, and you throw a little lying in there, and next thing you know, you were kind of like the biggest jerk that ever ruled this world, and you are the face now, unfortunately, because he shouldn't be the face. He is the face of the steroid era now, and he will be that until baseball is no longer a sport, which is
I think you captured it with insecurity. I think that really hits the nail on the head with regard to Alex Rodriguez.
So we're going to wind down here. Guys, I don't normally do this. This is RedSoxLife Live, but it's proliferated the headlines, and I know not all of us may be Patriots fans, but if you literally saw ESPN before we started here, it was about 8 o'clock, they had news cameras at Salem State University. I mean, when's the last time you think Salem State had that much press ever? I think I tweeted at Salem State and said, take advantage of this, man. This is never happening again. Just some quick thoughts. I think it's kind of a big news story in sports, period. If you're a Patriots fan, you could say whatever's on your heart. If you're not, use logic, or if you're a hater, Jim, I'm looking at you. I don't know if you're a Pats fan, but I'm really interested. But you know what? I'll go with Ryan. Ryan, just kind of a quick overview thoughts on this whole Deflategate thing in the report.
Well, let me just say this. I'm a graduating senior from college. I turned in my final paper earlier this week. If I had written a 243-page document with the result of probably, but not probably did it, I would fail that paper. This is a joke. Yeah. And Tom Brady is going to go out there. He didn't say anything tonight. He said that he hadn't read the whole thing, which is a complete lie. The thing is that he hasn't gone through it line by line with his lawyers, because he's coming at the NFL and he is suing them so hard if he gets in any more trouble for this. It's a joke. It's on every major news channel. It's not just on ESPN. It was on CNN. It's on ABC. Anderson Cooper was talking about it tonight. And there was a guy talking to Cooper who said this wasn't a private investigation. The NFL had help with this. The NFL's covering this up. And if anything comes from this, I kind of expect there to be sort of a new precedence in the NFL. If they're gonna weigh the balls of Tom Brady's footballs, you know, they might as well weigh every single football in every game, before the game, at halftime, and after the game at this point. And if anybody is either over or under, there's going to be a precedent set.
Fair enough. Jorge, any thoughts on this?
Oh yeah, look.
I think
So yeah, I am a huge Pats fan, to be honest. But I mean, the fact that the Wells report has more pages than the Ray Lewis report tells you everything you need to know about it, and even more that it's more probable than not. I mean, it's like it's a joke. It's definitely a joke. I can't believe it. I mean, it really pissed me off because now haters, Patriots haters are going to have more to talk about. Just like, oh yeah, so now it's official. No, it's not official. Everyone is talking like it's official, like, but it's not. It's more probable than not. And even talking about suspensions and stuff like that at this point, when there's not even like an official stand, if yes or no, it's hilarious. I mean, I just can't believe this thing. I am personally, I think Brady had something to do with it, but that's just my take. I mean, and I'm talking as a Patriots fan. I'm not talking like a hater. I think he had something to do. Maybe even Belichick, maybe even Kraft. Who knows? They are the only people that know. But the fact that they are talking like it's official, it's way too funny. I mean, you don't bring out a 250 pages and say that, oh yeah, it's official, and then say it's more probable than not, and then begin to talk about suspensions. I don't. It just really pisses me off because Brady is, let's face it. I mean, he may be the best quarterback of our time. Maybe not better than Montana, but he is definitely the best of our time, and that his legacy is being like, I don't know, tainted with this thing. It's not fair to him. It's not fair for the Patriots, and it's not fair for even the NFL because they are putting themselves in a spot when everything they do is wrong. From the Ray Lewis point until now, it's been a complete joke what Roger Goodell has been doing.
Gotcha. All right, Ian, your 2 cents.
All right, well, I'm a big Pats fan, but I'm going to try to look at this, logically here. So Brady probably, we're going with the Wells report, probably most likely knew something about what was going on. And I definitely think, he had something to do with it. I don't think two staff members have anything to gain from doctoring his balls before. I mean, if they do and Brady doesn't want it, they're probably canned. So, but then also looking at this kind of reminds me of Pineda with the pine tar last year. I mean, it seems like a lot of quarterbacks, when you just hear, like even before, like the Wells report came out, just at the initial Deflategate, a lot of retired quarterbacks saying, it's no big deal. A lot of guys do it this way. And even when they have the Packers on NBC, Sunday night, they're always talking about how Rodgers likes a big overinflated football. And so I don't see how that's really any different than what Brady does. Granted, he's taking air out, but kind of reminds me of just the pine tar thing with pitchers. They're always using stuff to get a better grip. I mean, everyone's doing it. Granted, it's against the rules, but I don't see why the big fuss is made. I mean, just because it's the Patriots, but I don't really know.
All right, do I dare ask, Jim?
I'm more of a Brady fan than I am a Patriots fan. I don't live and die with the Patriots the way I do with the Red Sox. That said, I took great delight in the Super Bowl victory this year. I've followed Brady through his entire career. I have an immense amount of respect for him. I think the point Ian just made about this being the football version of Michael Pineda and Pine Tar is dead on correct. A lot of people in baseball use pine tar, not just pitchers. Middle infielders use it. Catchers use it. A lot of people use it. Where Pineda made the big mistake was putting the big glob on his neck. And in fact, I did a video for RedSoxLife last year suggesting to Mr. Pineda how best to hide the pine tar the next time. If you Google Eli Manning football preparation, New York Times, you'll find an article that came out a couple of years ago about how Eli Manning likes to have his footballs prepared. There is a picture of a Giants employee using a freaking power tool to set Eli's football a certain way. It's a power tool. We're not talking about sticking a little needle in and inflating the ball too much or deflating it. We're talking about a power tool. So, obviously, I think everybody knows the history. Peyton and Brady are two of the quarterbacks who went to the league and said, listen, we'd like to be able to set the balls our own way, blah, blah, blah. And this is the end result of what you have. The balls are doctored to a quarterback's liking. The league is well aware of it. Ryan, you had the exact same thought about the paper you just turned in that I had earlier today. I had professors at Fordham. I know it's 100 years ago, but if I had turned in a paper with that logic, with that conclusion, probably, but I would have failed. And I get that it's legalese. I understand it, but I don't know if it's a witch hunt. I don't know why the NFL would go after one of its premier players, one of its poster boys for the league. I don't know why they would do that. But to me, they're going after the Patriots and they're going after Brady, and I personally hope that he has his legal team, and I tweeted this out earlier today, whose legal team is going to be more involved, A-Rod with the Yankees or Brady. I hope Brady goes after the league with everything he has, because I think that report is just absolute hogwash.
Yeah, my thoughts on it are very simple. I think it's ironic, and I think the league is about to open itself up to ridicule and extreme examination as to where they input their resources to. I know that somebody had said something about the Ray Lewis report. I also think the Ray Rice report. I mean, they could get text messages, they could get emails. They dug as deep as they could with the Patriots, but they couldn't get a freaking tape from a casino in Atlantic City that had the slugging of a man to a woman. I mean, are you kidding me right now? And then not to mention, if you really believe what's going on, they actually saw the tape but never actually got it, and they still gave him only 2 games. So you're telling me that Brady could be suspended for 2, if not more? And if you look at the league rules, it says a $25,000 fine max for doctoring a ball, inflating or deflating it. What it is, it's Roger Goodell and the NFL thinking that because there's so much Patriot haters, which I understand, there are so much Patriot haters that they can get back to the good graces and show that they have some kind of integrity by using public opinion and swaying them to say, well, they're going to give it to the Patriots. Because here's the reality. If they don't put the screws, the Patriots and Tom Brady, they're going to have no credibility ever. Because there are a lot of people out there, including Mr. Shannon Sharp himself, who think Tom Brady should be suspended for more than 2 games. Bill Belichick should be suspended for the year, and they should lose their 2015-16, both of those years, first-round draft pick. I mean, he's a little ludicrous, and if you're watching this, which you're probably not, Shannon, stick to just commentating about football and not talking about anything else, bro. Okay?
Shannon Sharp probably had footballs thrown to him that were underinflated.
Yeah, well, he wouldn't know any better because he's not a scientist or anything, right? Not to mention, if you actually read, the funny thing, the last thing I'll say about this is the NFL is opening itself up to looking at things way beyond this matter, the narrative itself. I mean, the independent research facility that was used by Ted Wells was the same facility that said secondhand smoke isn't cancerous. That has a history of finding results that are favorable for the clients that are paying them.
Yeah.
So, again, there seems to be an opening up of different kind of narratives now that I think is going to really come back to hurt the NFL. But needless to say, there it is. You get a little NFL talk with your Red Sox Life Live. And again, this is not really live. This is pre-recorded. But we had so much to talk about when it comes to this, a couple of different things that have happened today. We wanted to get it to you. So, again, I want to thank everybody here. I want to thank Ian. I want to thank Jim. I want to thank Jorge. And I want to thank Ryan for coming on today. You can get all of us at our hashtags here for Twitter. Also, click and follow Red Sox Live. Red Sox Life. That's all one word on Twitter. You get all the latest stuff from these guys. They put out great content. I want to thank you all for watching. Tune in. We got some actual live RSLs coming up, and we just appreciate you guys tuning in. So thank you, and hopefully the Red Sox turn around. Good night, guys.
Good night.
Hi, guys.